In the world of dental hygiene, Romans had a peculiar choice of toothpaste. The Romans were known for their ingenuity, their engineering marvels, their military might. But when it came to dental hygiene, the Romans had a rather unusual approach. Their toothpaste wasn't the cool, minty paste we're accustomed to. No, their choice was somewhat more organic. They believed in the power of powdered mouse brains. That's right, mouse brains. This was a common ingredient in their toothpaste. You would think that something so bizarre would be met with revulsion, but in those times it was seen as perfectly normal. After all, the Romans believed in utilizing every part of an animal, and perhaps in their minds, the brain of a mouse held unique properties that could help maintain their pearly whites. Just imagine starting your day with a fresh smear of mouse brains on your teeth. So next time you reach for your toothpaste, consider yourself lucky you're not reaching for a mouse. Ancient Rome had some unique methods of treating injuries. Imagine being a Roman citizen, and instead of reaching for the nearest bandage, you opt for cobwebs. Yes, you heard it right, cobwebs. Those dusty, often spider-filled corners of your home were once the go-to first aid kit for our Roman counterparts. But why cobwebs? Well, these delicate structures are rich in vitamin K, a vital ingredient for blood clotting. So, when applied to a wound, the web would help to halt the bleeding. Additionally, the intricate design of cobwebs would create a protective barrier against dirt and bacteria, much like a modern bandage. However, it wasn't just any cobweb that would do the trick. Ideally, the Romans preferred the webs of black spiders, considering them to have the most potent healing properties. So, the next time you cringe at the sight of cobwebs, remember, they were once a staple in ancient Roman medicine cabinets. Who needs bandages when you've got cobwebs, right? The founding of Rome is a tale of survival and wolves. Picture this, twin brothers Romulus and Remus, born to a Vestal virgin and the war god Mars, abandoned in the Tiber River, only to be discovered by a she-wolf. This she-wolf, instead of making a meal out of them, decided to become their foster mother. She nurtured them, fed them, and raised them like her own pups. It's a wild tale, isn't it? This legend, as strange as it may sound, was an integral part of Roman culture. It was a tale of strength, survival, and divine intervention that Romans held dear. It shaped their identity, their values, and their ambitions. It's a story that every Roman knew by heart, a story that was told and retold, generation after generation. In the grand scheme of things, it's quite a unique origin story. Raised by a wolf, that's not something you hear every day. Meet Antoninus Pius, the Roman emperor who loved cheese a little too much. This is not your typical tale of a Roman emperor. Antoninus Pius, unlike his counterparts who reveled in battle glory and political conquest, had a rather peculiar affinity for cheese. His love for cheese was legendary, and he would often be found indulging in the finest varieties from across the empire. But as the saying goes, too much of anything can be dangerous. Antoninus Pius found this out the hard way. One fateful night, the emperor succumbed to his insatiable cheese craving, indulging in an extravagant feast of the finest cheeses his empire had to offer. Little did he know, this would be his last supper. The next day, Antoninus Pius was found lifeless. The cause of death, an overdose of cheese. A bizarre and unexpected end for a Roman emperor, wouldn't you say? So, next time you're enjoying a cheese platter, spare a thought for poor Antoninus. Because even the mightiest can fall to the humblest of things, in this case, cheese. Ancient Rome was not for the faint-hearted. Public executions were a common sight. Indeed, the Romans had an extensive palette when it came to methods of execution, each one designed to strike fear and maintain order within society. One of the most infamous forms of execution was crucifixion. This was not a swift or merciful death. The condemned would be nailed to a cross and left to die, a process that could take days. This brutal spectacle was a clear message to any who dared to defy the Roman Empire. Yet, the Romans did not limit themselves to crucifixions. They had a flair for the dramatic that extended into their execution methods. Some unfortunate souls were burned alive, their screams serving as a grim soundtrack to the spectacle. Others were bound by their feet to the tail of a horse and dragged until they met their end. But perhaps the most horrifying were those sentenced to damnatio ad bestias, or death by wild beasts. These individuals were thrown into an arena, unarmed, to face lions, tigers, or other deadly creatures. The crowd would watch in morbid fascination as the beasts hunted and eventually overcame the condemned. And then there were the recreations of historical events. The Romans, ever fond of their history, would sometimes stage these events with real people. These doomed individuals would reenact the bloodiest battles and conflicts of the past, their deaths serving as the climax of the performance. So picture this. You're in ancient Rome, the sun is high, and you're in the midst of a crowd, all eyes fixed on the spectacle of human suffering unfolding before you. The air is thick with the scent of blood and fear, the crowd's roars of approval echoing in your ears. You're witnessing a public execution, a chilling reminder of the deadly seriousness of Roman law. A day out watching executions, just another day in ancient Rome. Gladiators were not just fighters, they were also the source of beauty products. Yes, you heard that right. In the Roman world, gladiators symbolized more than just strength and courage. They were also associated with beauty and allure. The Romans had a peculiar belief in the magical powers of a gladiator's blood and sweat. It was thought to have mystical properties and was often collected and used in various ways. Now you might be wondering, how was it used? Well, hold on to your seats because we're about to dive into the strange and uncanny practices of the Romans. Gladiator sweat, for instance, was a hot commodity. It was diligently collected and used in the making of perfumes. Imagine walking into a Roman perfumery, the air filled with an array of scents, and there, among the fragrant roses and exotic spices, was the distinct aroma of gladiator sweat. It was considered a luxury, a perfume that not only made you smell divine, but also imbued you with the strength and valor of a gladiator. But that's not all. The Romans also had a bizarre fascination with the gladiator's dead skin cells. After a grueling day of fighting in the arena, a gladiator would take a bath to cleanse himself of the day's toil. The dead skin cells that floated on the water surface were carefully collected to be reused as a facial cream. The Romans believed that applying this cream would rejuvenate their skin and make them look youthful. And if that wasn't odd enough, there was also the belief that a gladiator's sweat could serve as an aphrodisiac. To the Romans, the idea of consuming something so closely associated with a gladiator was appealing, and they believed it could enhance their own strength and virility. So, there you have it. The Romans' obsession with gladiators went beyond the arena, extending into their beauty and personal care routines. Who knew that a gladiator's sweat could be the secret to eternal beauty? A darker side of Roman society was their acceptance of infanticide. This macabre practice was not only legal, but also socially acceptable, particularly among the lower classes. The term infanticide might ring a chilling bell in our ears today, but in ancient Rome, it was a grim reality of everyday life. The Romans lived in a culture where life was often cheap, and survival was not a given. There were no social safety nets, no orphanages or foster care systems as we know them today. A family's survival often depended on the number of working hands they had. An extra mouth to feed, especially one that couldn't contribute to the household, was often seen as a burden. Unwanted or deformed infants were the most common victims of this practice. The Romans believed in the virtue of physical perfection and strength, and any deviation from this ideal was seen as a sign of weakness or divine disfavor. These infants were often abandoned, left to the elements and the wild beasts. Some were left in the open markets, where they were either picked up by slavers or left to perish. This practice of infanticide was not done out of malice or cruelty, but out of necessity and practicality. It was a harsh reality of a society that valued strength, pragmatism, and survival above all. A society where the weak and the unwanted were discarded, seen as liabilities rather than lives. It's a stark contrast to our modern values, where every life is seen as precious and worth protecting. It's a reminder of how far we've come as a society, and how much our attitudes towards life and human dignity have evolved. But it's also a chilling reminder of the harsh realities of life in ancient Rome. A time when life was cheap, survival was uncertain, and the weak and the unwanted were left to the mercy of the elements. A time when infanticide was not a crime, but a grim reality of everyday life. Romans had some interesting misconceptions about Christians. Their religious ceremonies, which spoke of consuming the flesh of Christ and the blood of Christ, were grossly misunderstood by the Romans. In their minds, these rituals were taken literally, painting Christians as cannibals in the process. While we understand these terms to be symbolic today, the Romans, unfamiliar with the metaphorical language of Christian liturgy, were left to their own frightening interpretations. This led them to believe that Christians were engaging in cannibalistic practices. The idea of consuming human flesh and blood was horrifying and bizarre to the Romans, further isolating Christians in the Roman society. As we delve deeper into the peculiarities of the Roman era, it's clear that misunderstandings and lack of knowledge played a significant role in shaping societal norms and beliefs. Misunderstandings can lead to some truly bizarre beliefs. In Rome, even urine was a taxable commodity. Yes, you heard it right. The Romans found a way to monetize something as commonplace as urine. The Romans were renowned for their engineering and architectural marvels, their military prowess, and their innovative taxation systems. Among these, the urine tax stands out as a testament to their ingenuity and resourcefulness. Urine, an everyday waste product, played an essential role in the Roman economy. The Romans discovered that it could be used as a chemical agent in several industries. The tanning industry, for instance, utilized urine in the process of turning animal hides into leather. The ammonia found in urine acted as a softening agent, making the hides more pliable and easier to work with. But the uses didn't stop there. In the absence of modern detergents, Roman laundries, known as philonicae, also used urine to clean clothes. The ammonia in the urine acted as a stain remover, breaking down dirt and grime to leave garments refreshed and renewed. And how did the Romans collect enough urine for these industries? That's where the public urinals come into play. Romans would relieve themselves at communal public latrines, and instead of letting the urine go to waste, it was collected and sold to these industries. Now, where does the tax part come in? Well, Emperor Vespasian, a shrewd businessman, saw an opportunity to make money from this trade. He imposed a vectigal urinae, or urine tax, on the collection and sale of urine from public urinals. This tax was levied on those who purchased the urine, essentially creating a whole new revenue stream for the Roman state. Vespasian's urine tax was met with criticism, but he famously retorted, "Pecunia non olet," which translates to, "Money does not stink." This phrase is still used today to suggest that the value of money is not tainted by its origins. Next time you complain about taxes, remember, it could be worse. You could be paying for the privilege of buying urine. Toilet explosions were a real concern in ancient Rome. Picture this. You're in the heart of the empire, surrounded by grand architecture and the hustle and bustle of daily life. But you live in fear, not of the gladiators or the public executions, but of your own lavatory. The Romans, innovative as they were, had their fair share of plumbing issues. And let's be frank, the last thing anyone wants is an exploding toilet. So how did they tackle this? With toilet charms, of course. These weren't your average rabbit's foot or four-leaf clover. No, these were charms devoted to the goddess Fortuna. Fortuna, the Roman deity of luck and fortune, was believed to have the power to ward off any ill-fated bathroom incidents. These charms, often intricately designed, were strategically placed on or near toilets. Their purpose? To bring good luck and, more importantly, to prevent any unexpected and rather unpleasant explosions. Toilet charms, the ancient Roman solution to plumbing problems. The Romans had some interesting choices when it came to cuisine. And by interesting, we mean downright bizarre. For instance, let's talk about stuffed dormice. Yes, you heard that right. These little rodents, once fattened up, were considered a delicacy. Stuffed with a mixture of minced meat, pepper, and other spices, then roasted to perfection. Quite the contrast to our modern-day perception of rodents. And if that doesn't make you cringe already, wait until you hear about the flamingo tongue. The Romans had a certain fascination with exotic birds, and the flamingo was no exception. The tongue of this vibrant bird was considered a luxury item, a treat reserved for the wealthiest of Romans. It's hard to imagine enjoying such a meal today, isn't it? But the Romans didn't stop at terrestrial and avian delicacies. They also had a penchant for the unusual when it came to seafood. Garum, a fermented fish sauce made from fish intestines and blood, was a staple in many Roman dishes. The pungent sauce was known for its strong aroma and distinctive flavor, a taste that many modern palates might find challenging. Finally, let's not forget the pig's wombs. These were prepared in various ways, sometimes stuffed and roasted, other times boiled or grilled. The Romans considered this a delicacy, a far cry from the cuts of pork we typically consume today. So there you have it. From rodents to bird tongues, fermented fish sauce to pig's wombs, the Romans certainly knew how to keep their dinner guests on their toes. It's fascinating to think about how different our culinary tastes are today, isn't it? But who knows? Maybe in 1,000 years, people will look back at our food choices with the same bewilderment we feel towards the Romans. Bon appetit, or should we say, bene gustum. So there you have it, the top 10 weirdest facts about ancient Rome. From the strange dental hygiene practices involving powdered mouse brains to the unexpected use of cobwebs for first aid, the Romans certainly had some unique habits. The story of Romulus and Remus, raised by a wolf, and Antoninus Pius's fatal cheese indulgence are tales that still intrigue us today. The chilling public executions, the peculiar beliefs surrounding gladiators, and the shocking acceptance of infanticide reflect a society vastly different from ours. The Romans' misconceptions about Christians, their unusual urine tax, and the bizarre precautions against exploding toilets all add to the fascinating tapestry of Roman life. And let's not forget the exotic menu items, including stuffed dormice and flamingo tongue. These facts provide a glimpse into a world that, while strange to us, was perfectly normal for the Romans. If you enjoyed this journey into the bizarre world of ancient Rome, don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating facts from history.